Well, let's get this show on the road. I mean, since Vanessa's already talking about ingredients and she lives in Melbourne, and I think you were going to get nuts from somewhere in Victoria, why don't we talk about that as well? Like, let's source these products and do the relevant agreements for them with the Australian suppliers of the ingredients, because then we can kind of move forward to talking to the Thai people about manufacturing.
Well, my issue with the nuts people is they can't provide it to me 12 months a year. It's a season.
Yep.
And I need to work out the production for obviously 12 months as well. And so I want to make sure that I always have supply. So I'm trying to talk to more than one supplier just in case something happens and I can't get the supply. So there's two ways I can do it: is have more than one supplier or work through an agent that can work out different suppliers as I go. But I'm not sure which way it's going to work better for me.
Look, Karina, I think it comes up against cost against time on how you do it. If you have one person coordinating it and having an agent getting them to do the job, if you've got the budget to do that, that's probably a good way to go until you get confident, and then you can start outsourcing and negotiating on your own. With your suppliers, having a couple, that's a very smart thing to do, and it always covers you moving forward if there is a bit of an issue with one supplier against the other. Do you know where your suppliers are coming from?
Yeah, I've got an idea of a few of them.
Mm-hmm.
I have the issue that because I will be exporting it to Thailand, they need to be accredited with Australian quarantine with ENQUIRIES and being able to actually export the product. So that's actually reducing the how many I can use at this stage.
So tell me, have you applied for any of your exporting licenses and any of that sort of stuff to get this going?
I'm just a chef, you know. This is a little bit too hard for me at this stage. There's so much I need to handle. So what I'm looking at is using a supplier that is licensed to export for me. I'm not ready yet to handle all of that, but maybe down the track that should be a possibility.
Yeah, look, definitely, I totally agree. There's so many documents and it can be very confusing. You certainly need a license. Because you're exporting fruit and nuts, there's so many other documentation that you need. I've actually prepared a little list for you just so you've got them on file, and I will forward them through, but let's go through a few of them with you now. The certificate of origin, obviously you need to supply a certificate of where the fruit and nuts have come from, and that's to go to your freight forwarder, obviously, to get everything through.
I was told that there was also a free trade agreement with Thailand, so hopefully that would include that product. I'm not sure. I haven't got to details on that one, but I was told to check.
Yeah, there certainly is a free trade agreement between Australia and Thailand. It's constantly changing, and this is where your freight forwarder or your customs broker will certainly be able to assist you with what is able to go into that country under the free trade agreement. You also too have to have your ingredient certificate, obviously. Inspection certificate, this is where they need to inspect the product before it leaves. Insurance is a massive thing. If something happens with your product on travel, en route to where it's going to, you need to be able to be covered for the loss of those products. Have you decided on how you're packaging and transporting your fruit and nuts over to Thailand?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping it'll be, well, it becomes a bit complicated because I've got my fruits, my dried fruit and my nuts here in Australia, and then I'm going to get the rice in India, and I want everything to go in Thailand. Thailand is actually doing the packaging, so I'm hoping to be able to get at least full container loads. So from the South Australian and Victorian goods, I'd like to be able to consolidate them into one area. And be able to send it into one container, so we have less logistics when it gets to Thailand. That's feasible, isn't it?
Yes, it certainly is feasible. You can certainly ship quantities of goods in LCL, which is loose cargo, and bring it into one hub. Now, I think one thing you need to think about is what shipping line you're going to go to. Obviously, the less transit there is, the better cost-wise for you and time-wise. Sometimes you may choose to hub it and then transport it over to Thailand. It just, once again, depends on your shipping line. Having a good freight forwarder, in my professional opinion, is a great way to go because they have got relationships with shipping lines and they're constantly negotiating and getting the best rates for their clients. Okay, so I think there's a lot for you to think about. I think with everything that you're doing and the fact that you are a chef, using the services of a customs broker or a freight forwarder internationally for you, because they have got those relationships, certainly would be the way to go.
Yeah, the Dried Fruit Association has referred some freight forwarder to me that they do recommend, who are used to transporting those sort of products. So I might go that way, but I will certainly get about 3 freight forwarders and compare them and have a good chat with them.
Definitely.
So obviously price is important to me, so I will make sure that they are competitive in price, but I also, as you say, the amount of service they're going to offer me is going to make a big difference on my decision making on that. So
Definitely.
I'm working on that. It's part of my plan.
It is. Also, too, I just want to mention, Corinne, when you're shipping any goods, if there's any timber, so if you're packaging your nuts on timber pallets, you will require fumigation, an ISPN 15, and that is to make sure that there's no nitty-gritties coming in. Also, the fact that you've got fruit and nuts coming out of Australia, it's called a phytosanitary certificate as well. This is where you need to be aware of all these things, but certainly your freight forwarder will be able to advise you as well. You don't want any nasty surprises, because anything in shipment and transit can get very, very costly, and then you run the risk of your nuts and fruit going off if they're not in a reefer container, and obviously kept at the correct temperature, which you will need to speak to your supplier about on what the best transport way to go is.
Great. Yeah, my supplier, because the ones I've been talking to already do export, they've mentioned all those issues. They're able to get the phytosanitary certificate for me. They told me to get a container that was food quality containers, which she said what it means is that it hasn't been used for chemicals before,
Correct.
so it's clean. So, and their facility is accredited to do packing for ENQUIRIES and for export.
Fantastic.
So those are the ones I'm looking at. So yeah, she was very good. The supplier was very helpful in giving me all that information.
That's fantastic. It's all about your relationships and your trust as well. So you seem like you're on the right track.
Hope so. This is moving forward very quickly, this little project.